On March 7, 2025 at 6:08 p.m. Eastern Time, the state of South Carolina carried out its first execution by firing squad. Brad Sigmund, a 67-year-old inmate, was pronounced dead, minutes after 3 bullets pierced his chest. This landmark event marked the first use of this execution method in the United States since 2010, casting a spotlight on the controversial practice of capital punishment. Sigmund's case has ignited fierce debate about the morality and legality of the death penalty, drawing attention to the grim realities of state-sanctioned death. Sigmund's execution is not just a singular event, but rather a chilling reminder of the deep divisions within American society regarding the death penalty. His case has reignited discussions about the ethics of execution methods, the fairness of capital punishment, and the very nature of justice itself. As the nation grapples with these complex issues, Sigmund's name will forever be etched in the annals of American legal history as the first person executed by firing squad in South Carolina. The use of the firing squad, a method often associated with bygone eras, has shocked many and sparked outrage among death penalty opponents. However, for proponents of capital punishment, Sigmund's execution serves as a stark reminder of the ultimate price paid for heinous crimes. This event has undoubtedly left an indelible mark on the national consciousness, forcing a conversation about the morality and efficacy of the death penalty in modern America. The road to South Carolina's death chamber began in 2001 with a horrific crime that shattered a family and sent shockwaves through the community. Brad Sigmund was convicted of a double homicide, brutally taking the lives of his ex-girlfriend's parents. The court heard harrowing details of the crime, how Sigmund, driven by rage and jealousy, ended the lives of Gladys and David Lark in their own home. To compound the horror, Sigmund kidnapped his ex-girlfriend, who thankfully managed to escape his clutches. The judicial process that followed was lengthy and complex, culminating in Sigmund's conviction and sentencing to death. His legal team fought vigorously, appealing for clemency based on claims of an undiagnosed mental illness. They argued that Sigmund's actions were driven by a condition beyond his control, a factor they believed should mitigate his punishment. However, despite their impassioned pleas, the courts ultimately upheld his death sentence. As the years on death row turned into decades, Sigmund's case became a focal point for both supporters and opponents of capital punishment. For some, he represented the face of evil, a man who deserved nothing less than the ultimate penalty for his heinous crimes. Others saw him as a product of a flawed system, a man whose mental health struggles were ignored, leading him down a path of destruction and despair. In the face of his impending execution, Brad Sigmund was presented with a grim choice: death by lethal injection or death by firing squad. This unusual option arose after South Carolina, facing legal challenges and difficulties in obtaining lethal injection drugs, amended its execution protocol to include the firing squad as an alternative method. This change, while intended to provide options, thrust Sigmund into the spotlight, forcing him to make a decision no one should ever have to contemplate. Sigmund's legal team argued vehemently against both methods, contending that both constituted cruel and unusual punishment. They cited concerns about the state's lethal injection procedures, pointing to past botched executions as evidence of a flawed system. Their arguments focused on the potential for excruciating pain and suffering, highlighting the ethical and legal dilemmas surrounding lethal injection. Despite their objections, Sigmund ultimately opted for the firing squad, a decision that sent shockwaves through the nation. His lawyers explained that this choice, while seemingly unimaginable to many, was driven by a desire for a swifter and less agonizing death. They argued that the firing squad, while undeniably violent, offered a more certain and humane end compared to the uncertainties and potential for suffering associated with lethal injection. Brad Sigmund's execution by firing squad has ignited a firestorm of controversy, reigniting the debate over the death penalty in America. Outside the walls of the Broad River Correctional Institution, where the execution took place, protesters gathered, their voices a chorus of dissent against state-sanctioned death. Their signs bore messages of peace, justice, and mercy, their presence a stark reminder of the deep divisions within society over the morality of capital punishment. Sigmund's final statement, read by his lawyer, added another layer of complexity to the already heated debate. In his last words, he expressed remorse for his crimes. seeking forgiveness from the families he had torn apart. He called for an end to the cycle of violence, urging society to choose compassion over retribution. His statement, a mix of contrition and condemnation of capital punishment, served as a poignant reminder of the human cost of the death penalty. The debate over the death penalty is far from settled. Proponents argue that it serves as a just punishment for the most heinous crimes, a deterrent against future violence, and a way to provide closure for grieving families. They believe that the state has a moral obligation to uphold the sanctity of life by exacting the ultimate punishment for those who take a life unjustly. Opponents, on the other hand, view the death penalty as a barbaric relic of a bygone era, a system plagued by racial bias, economic disparities, and the potential for irreversible error. They argue that it is not a deterrent, that it disproportionately affects marginalized communities, and that it perpetuates a cycle of violence rather than offering true justice. Brad Sigmund's execution, while closing one chapter in a tragic story, has opened a new chapter in the ongoing debate over capital punishment in America.